Hey guys, it's Han, and today I have the Tamiya Blitzer Beetle. This is a kind of a 90s stadium truck that was re-released back in 2011, so the re-release itself is pretty old at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if they re-release this re-release. It was re-released with its sister car, the Stadium Blitzer, and there was also, when they were originally released, there was a third vehicle, I believe it was called the Stadium Thunder. So the Stadium Blitzer and the Stadium Thunder, the actual stadium truck versions, were the ones that I was personally more interested in. I really like the look of these old 90s stadium trucks. So that was the version I was honestly really interested in, but I wasn't able to pick those up because they were discontinued by the time I had enough money to get one of these. And as of this moment, the only one that is available still and still in production is the Blitzer Beetle. So if you want this Blitzer Stadium Truck chassis, your only option is the Blitzer Beetle. The price of this isn't too terrible. I got this on Tower Hobbies, I believe, for around 180 bucks minus whatever discount they give you. So price is pretty good, and for that you get a pretty cool looking stadium truck retro stadium truck chassis and a hard Beetle body. So this Beetle body was used a bunch of times on a number of different vehicles. This version of the Beetle body, I believe, was originally meant for the re-release Sand Scorcher. And then later on, they've also reused the same body on the re-release. Um, Actually, they reused it on the Blitzer Beetle first because this one came out in 2011. And then after that, in 2015, they used it again on the re-release Monster Beetle. So this body has been used quite a bit. It's a pretty common body at this point. Um, so I don't think people are super concerned about beating these bodies up. And originally, I did not like the Blitzer Beetle at all. I was not at all interested in getting a Blitzer Beetle for a number of reasons. One, I originally wasn't a big fan of this version of the Baja Bug body. I didn't like the narrow-eyed Baja Bug. I preferred the when the headlights were on the fenders. I just wasn't a big fan of this face of the Baja Bug. Uh, so that was strike number one for it. Two, I didn't like the 90s like splash goo graphics on it. I thought those are ugly. So that was strike two. And I wasn't a really big fan of the color scheme. And then I also didn't think the Beetle body looked right, quite right on this stadium truck body, stadium truck chassis. So I had a few reasons for why I didn't like this vehicle and why I didn't want to get one. But the reason I decided to pick it up was one, like I mentioned, the price was pretty decent. Two, I did still really want a Blitzer chassis, a Stadium Blitzer chassis. And three, when I got my re-released Monster Beetle forever ago, um, I ended up actually kind of falling in love with this face and this body in general. So, with all those things combined, I decided to pick it up. I could get a Blitzer Beetle, not a Blitzer, I keep saying Blitzer Beetle, Stadium Blitzer or a Stadium Thunder body later, whether it's from Tamiya, like a new old stock one that's laying around somewhere, or the one that Team Blue Groove makes. I could find a different Stadium Blitzer body to put on here. And then the Beetle body I could use for some other project. So, uh, justifying that, I decided to pick it up and try it out. But since I wasn't super keen on this Blitzer Beetle style, and I didn't really want to paint it, not that I really can paint at the moment, I decided to just do it completely box art, not paint anything. If you were to just literally take this out of the box, build it, slap the stickers on it to go drive it, this is how it's going to turn out. With a couple changes. So mine does have the ball bearings installed, and it's missing the side view mirrors here. But those side view mirrors break the moment you look at them. And also, in my opinion, they look pretty ugly. So I'm not a big fan of them, so I just left them off. But yeah, it's supposed to have side view mirrors. So this is what it's gonna look like. The body is molded in black, and the outer surface of it is like a matte finish, so that gives it a kind of a cool painted look. The nose of the body is also molded in the same neon orange, whatever this color is, as the wheels. So you don't have to paint that either. The neon orange of the decals and the nose don't quite match up. They're not the same shade. But you know, unless you're super OCD about this stuff, I doubt it's gonna bother anyone. And once it's driving around, you're not really gonna notice anyway. So I think that's pretty neat that they made this kit in a way where you don't have to paint it if you don't want to. It also has a driver figure. You do have to hand paint the driver figure, but also that's another thing where if you don't really want to paint anything, you don't have to install the driver figure, which you can see mine is missing the driver figure. So yeah, I haven't really run this yet, so I can't really comment on how it drives. But from what I've seen online of people driving it, it does look like a pretty fun chassis. It does look like a pretty well handling chassis. It is a 90s vehicle, so it's gonna have some flaws, but it's definitely a lot better than its predecessors from the 80s, like like the old cars, like the Sand Scorcher with the Hornet, Lunchbox, and stuff like that. So suspension seems pretty good. The the shock setup is also stock. The stock setup of the shocks seem a little bit loose. The front has a lot of droop, but it also doesn't come up all the way. The rear is a little stiffer because of the motor back there and all the weight back there. So you can tune up the shocks if you want. It does use standard Tamiya shocks, CVA shocks, so that shouldn't be too hard to upgrade. And using this Beetle body, it does use one body clip up here and then two on the sides. It does get a little bit annoying to remove on this particular chassis because the rear body mounts are kind of flexible and they kind of move around when you're trying to find them. So that's a little bit annoying and probably another reason why I won't run this body too much on this chassis. But yeah, I have all this set up. The wheels and tires are pretty good. I've actually had experience with these wheels and tires. I have them on one of my WRO2 chassis cars, my Suzuki Jimny, and I quite like these wheels and tires. They perform pretty well. The pin spikes obviously will wear out pretty quickly on a hard surface, but you know, the compound of the rubber is hard enough to last a little while. It'll last a few runs, but it's not so hard that they're drift tires. So pretty happy with the tires. There's no foam in these tires or anything. They're just semi-pneumatic, so don't expect anything crazy out of them. One thing to note is the front shocks are shorter than the rear shocks. You can see the front shocks here and the rear shocks there. So that is something you want to keep in mind when you are upgrading the shocks on this car. I personally really like the Tamiya shocks. They don't tend to leak too much. I'm not really a racer. I'm just kind of like a hobbyist. So I'm not too concerned about the way the Tamiya shocks perform. I think they perform perfectly fine for any sort of regular hobbyist model builder, Tamiya collector. So I'm quite happy with the setup. The only upgrade I'll probably end up doing to this vehicle is probably the Ampro Engineering chassis brace, which I don't have on here at the moment. I still do have to order that in. But the one weakness from what I've heard on this chassis is the front of the chassis tends to crack and snap off if you land. Front, like forward first too many times. So the Ampro Engineering chassis brace should help with that. So that is an upgrade I will probably end up doing. And like I mentioned, I'm probably gonna put on an actual Stadium Blitzer body on here and do kind of a custom color scheme. I am actually thinking about doing a Super Hornet color scheme because when I opened the box for this, I saw these wheels and they're the exact same shade of like this neon orange that the Super Hornet wheels and tires are. So I think it'd be really cool to have like a stadium truck version of the Super Hornet since they're both truck kits from around the same era, the early to mid 90s. So I think it'd be really cool to do that. So I'll probably end up getting a stadium Blitzer or like a Stadium Thunder body, getting some Super Hornet decals from MCI Racing, and kind of doing like a Super Hornet theme. I think that's gonna look pretty cool. Some of the other overview stuff about the chassis, in case you're not too familiar with it, it is rear motor, transmission, all plastic gears, gear diff, no slipper clutch or anything. It does have a nice little skid plate for the transmission down here, so that's pretty nice. Overall, all the plastics, I cut myself. Overall, all the plastics do feel pretty good. They're standard like nice Tamiya ABS stuff, so it's not gonna be like Traxxas durability where you can like jump it 50 feet in the air and expect it to survive, but it's going to survive most reasonable bashing and racing and stuff. So Tamiya does attempt to brace the front of the chassis a little bit with this piece right here, but again, the Ampro piece will help out a little bit more. The MSC servo and motor mount, and the servo and mechanical speed control mount is still utilized on the chassis, but they use it more of as like an electronics box, electronics tray. So just you can leave it off if you want, or whatever. I don't remember if the battery tray, the battery strap post is integrated into that. Maybe it is. I don't quite remember. Yeah, oh wait, actually you do have to use the MSC mount because the battery tray strap is the pin, the post for that is integrated into that, so you do have to use it. But like you saw, the battery mounts in the rear side of the chassis, side saddle like this, and the space here is quite square, so we can try to fit a LiPo battery in here. I haven't actually tried, so I believe it's gonna fit. Yeah, see, so because the tray is pretty square, you are able to fit a LiPo battery in here, though it does seem like the it's too thick. So you're gonna have to figure out a different way to strap the battery down, but it does fit in the chassis pretty nicely. So that is good to see for those of you that don't use nickel metal hydride and use LiPos only. I guess you could try to shave down some of this chassis bracing down here in order to get the battery to fit, but I don't know. I wouldn't personally do that. And for me, I'm gonna probably run this thing on nickel metal hydride battery pack anyway, so it's not a huge problem for me. But yeah, just a quick little overview of the Tamiya Stadium Blitzer. Some of my viewers have been thinking that these are like review videos. These are not really review videos. They're more just like I don't know, overview videos. I'm not really like recommending the truck or giving yeah, I'm not like really like recommending the truck or not. Like it's just a matter of just giving you guys technical details, my first impressions and thoughts about it. But it's not really review videos, but more like here, check out this truck kind of video. So if you enjoyed it, as always, you can subscribe, comment down below, all that nice YouTube stuff. And I will see you guys next time.